neighborhood and to Ukraine, for instance, by being absent from the other relevant theaters in the world. Obviously, I do not think this is a matter of trying to compete with either the US or China or other powers. It is a matter of leveraging strategic advantage, which we do still have, at least as a major contributor financially, economically, to both economic development in these regions, cooperation in very specific sectors, and then since we are going to play a role in that, you cannot do that unless you also shape the negotiations. So for me, this is the imperative for the EU to try and play a much more geopolitical role. And one of my Indian friends that I met while being here was saying, would you quit whining in the EU because you're looking at yourselves and what you have done and you're dissatisfied and it's legitimate. But we who are looking at this geopolitically, we look at you as what you could do if you made up your mind to do it. And that is very geopolitical in a way because it's all about power projection, not necessarily about how you genuinely affect it. And I think the EU needs to learn to play that game. The only fear that I have is that we have never been good at dealing with two crises at a time. And the main one right now for us, obviously, is Ukraine. So I fear that just as we should be picking ourselves up to try and look more globally, we might actually be more focused in our immediate neighborhood.
Thank you. It does, for better and for worse, feel like it's, unfortunately, that it's a marginal issue, Europe's role. It's a shame to say it, but it does feel like it's not kind of where the problem is. I would like to get, before we come to the audience for questions, I would like to hear from the panel, and especially from those of you who are very much knowledgeable about the United States. It's not the elephant in the room. It is the sort of, it is the energy in the room, for better, for worse, for whatever people's views are. What is your view of how things have changed since January 20th? How is U.S. strategy affecting the conflict? And what would you advise, or what are you advising?
Well, let me start and say I wish it would gone after the Houthis back when I was a Central Command commander, and we could have plinked them a couple of times and they never would have even approached the capital of Sana'a. But we failed then, and then we didn't support the Emiratis and the Saudis when they had the Port of Hodeidah within reach. Ultimately, that ended up not well, and we were inadequate in our response to them disrupting one of the major maritime arteries of the world, forcing them to go all the way around Africa and so forth. So I'm actually pleased to see that. I'm pleased to see the tougher stance on Iran, which I hope will prevent conflict. The way you deter conflict is make sure that the potential adversary realizes you have the means and the willingness to use them, and you will. And when we have done things like the Syria red line that was not a red line, that cost us. Out in the Taiwan Strait, by the way, when we did the withdrawal from Afghanistan, that was unnecessary because the cost in blood and treasure was very sustainable. That sent and then the way it was conducted, that sent a message to President Putin that we likely would not respond as forcefully as we did. By the way, I am non-political in the U.S. I don't even register to vote, much less vote. I talk to members of either party, including the current administration, the past one. So these aren't politically informed. These are as objective as I can make it. So in certain respects, I'm very pleased to see. I do think we should be doing more in Lebanon. I do think we should be doing more in Iraq in a very skillful way. But let me then respond. I'm actually sympathetic to the two principles that you stated. But there's a reality here. We're talking about reality. You cannot reconcile with those who are irreconcilable. This is why I made the point. You have to assess. When we started the surge in Iraq, the two big ideas were first, secure and serve the people. We can only do that by living with them, gated communities. Second one was promote reconciliation. We cannot kill or capture our way out of an industrial strength insurgency. We have to reconcile with as many as we can. The third was pursue the irreconcilables even more relentlessly than we have been. Those are the core of what we did. We had an entire intelligence element created to identify whether certain individuals and certain groups were reconcilable or not. My assessment is that Hamas is not reconcilable. And so I think we need to be very careful to think that something can be done if, again, you don't achieve the three objectives that Prime Minister Netanyahu, I believe, rightly put out, and then add the fourth one that is critical as well, because without that you have no hope for the people who actually have lived in Gaza. You cannot accomplish political, economic, or reconstruction if you don't have security. Only the Israelis can achieve security. The Arabs are not going to achieve security for Israel. And again, these other ideas of how you might resolve this, I just don't find entirely realistic.
Thank you.
And then we should point out that Hamas actually was getting extra worker visas. They were getting new opportunities. The money was going in. They actually had a relatively good, certainly compared with what Hamas has brought onto them. And Hamas has owned it. You know, the Israelis left in 2005. Hamas won an election that the Americans foolishly insisted on holding. Hamas won, and that was the end of the other elements of the Palestinian Authority, and they've had it ever since. So they had some opportunities, and I won't even go back into the failure of the Palestinian Authority to take the offers by the two different Ehuds, Ehud Barak and especially Ehud Olmert, which enormous concessions from the Israelis that I don't think we'll ever see offered again, unfortunately.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to come in just specifically and concretely on this question of U.S. strategy under President Trump? And then I want to come, there are two questions at least on this table.
Yes, first of all, I think the new administration policies are very clear. Maybe somebody can dispute them, but all the ones that are going to criticize the U.S. administration, new ideas and policies, must look at the past and see how they fail with all their theoretical proposals. Secondly, I don't think that this administration will be fooled by slogans that we heard already on this stage, talking about Gaza Strip as an open jail. And just to remind the audience that Gaza has a border with Egypt, and I don't hear the honorable colleague on my right stating anything about...
Respectfully on the panel, please, for the purpose of the dialogue.
I said the honorable colleague on my right...
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, stating anything about, you know, for a jail you need to have walls, but to the best of my memory, there is a border between Egypt and the Gaza Strip. Israel withdrew from Gaza 2 decades ago, so there is no jail, and the fact that we continue to supply electricity, water, work, money, and everything else was something that now we are blamed for, and I can't understand how. Secondly, I think you have mentioned something about, yeah, I mean, you are looking at the watch when you're looking at me all the time. I didn't see that level of understanding to other speakers, but I respect that. So in the second comment, because I cannot really develop an argument here about the new policies, I will just mention that something that bothered me on the moral basis. There is casualties or a certain, somebody throw a number of 40,000 casualties in Gaza Strip, etc. So, but facts must be, first of all, this is Hamas figures, and if somebody see in this audience that Hamas is a reliable terrorist organization that you should buy figures from, I would say that you wait a little bit further and you'll find out. Secondly, somebody forgot to mention the numbers of terrorists among these 40,000. And let's assume, according to Hamas figures, that there are at least between 15,000 to 20,000 terrorist activists who raped, burned children in their home after tie them up with their families, shoot their mothers in front of the kids. And those guys are dead. So among the tiers, you know, that you have for the all 40,000, which is also a theoretical number, at least half of them are active terrorists. Just remind me.
The reason I hold the line is only because we can't resolve it on the panel.
Last sentence.
Thank you.
Remind me in what war you have a better proportion between civilians that were among terrorists, and the casualties were the better ratio. All international experts like Spencer.
Thank you. I do want to come to the audience, just only because the question was about U.S. policy. And also because I just don't think that we can resolve that. This is a very important contested, there's lots of contestation, but we can't resolve it here. So to the extent that we can really focus on the questions that now are going to come from the audience, please keep the questions succinct because we're in
about
limited time. And if
Excuse
you
me,
can,
what
I
about-
was going to come to you first because I think the first question, and then I'm going to come to you first, if that's okay, so that we bring the audience in. And
No,
then
no,
I'll
just to answer your question. I mean, I simply want to bring it
Please.
back to the focus of the session.
please,
That's it.
please, go ahead,
Okay.
please.
All right.
And then we'll come to you.
Your question was about the U.S. policy.
US
and why
policy.
Okay, I think the U.S. policy is not correct in the region, and I think the U.S. policy is bringing China as a bigger player in the region, in the rapprochement of Iran and Saudi, which seems to be working. This policy, which is completely biased toward Israel, is actually reducing the role of the U.S. in the region, and this is not good for them. At another level, the U.S. policies in general have been actually disrupting the multilateral system significantly, and so single-handedly is going to make BRICS stronger global south with a louder voice. Last word, irreconcilable Hamas. I'm not sure who is irreconcilable. Is it Hamas or is it Netanyahu, really? If you're talking about really reality, security comes with peace and solving roots of problems, not with arms and weapons and killing.
Rainier and Juana, are you okay to wait on the U.S. question and we'll come back? Okay, please, the gentleman here. And if you say who you are and state your question quite succinctly, please.
My name is Nasser Kamel. Well, quick, I mean, I didn't think the gentlemen, the two gentlemen did answer the question of the session. Beyond the crisis, prospect for peace. What I heard is a military political strategy to uproot Hamas. That's a comment. The question is actually, who disagree with that approach? Hamas, nobody in the Arab world question that the future of Hamas, the future of Gaza should be without Hamas, including the Arab plan that was mentioned before, which has a governance component by a multinational force, a UN-sanctioned force, and that could be a road towards a new political architecture for Gaza that could lead to a longer-term solution in Gaza and beyond in the West Bank. But what I heard from the general is a very knowledgeable, tactical, military approach to deal with the Palestinian question. I don't think the Palestinian question would be dealt with in terms of military tactics and not dealing with
strategy. Strategy.
I'm not a journalist, so
excuse
my ignorance in this. So I would like to hear, especially from the honorable Israeli diplomat and General Petraeus, how do they see the future of the Palestinian territory in 5 years or 10 years?
Thank you.
Do they believe in a two-state solution, or it is just about it is about keeping the status quo while uprooting Hamas, which we are all for it, and keeping the Israeli occupation of Gaza and the West Bank?
Before you answer this, I want to take a couple of more questions, but I think there is a sequencing question at the heart of your comment, and if we can ask the sequencing. I read as you were implying that there does need to be a sequence, but perhaps you're suggesting a different sequence. Please, the gentleman right here, and then we'll come to you. We could take these three questions and then come back. And then we'll go around.
Thank you, Itonde Kakoma. Just on the reference to agreements that don't reflect realities on the ground being unrealistic, I wonder if you could, particularly General Petraeus and Director General Idan Bartal, reflect on the implications of an agreement that I've understood has lasted now 46 years, the Camp David Peace Accords, which was not just about reflecting the realities on the ground, but creating perhaps future dynamics as well and future realities. Firstly, what are the lessons that could be drawn for the longevity of that agreement? And secondly, what are the implications or ramifications of the current situation on the sustainability of holding that agreement together? Thank you.
And then one more right here at the same table. Clearly, 40 minutes is highly inadequate to talk about the Middle East. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Magdalena Kirchner. I work for the Stiftung Mercator in Germany. I do have a question, Mr. Bartal, to you, because before October 7th, or before you were in charge of regional cooperation, and because I have to look at, or I'm looking at the planet part, I want to ask also about the future, but about Israel's role and place in the region, obviously, which is key for the future of Israel as well. And just before October 7th, there were a lot of initiatives on energy security. So I would like to ask you, with regards to Jordan, Turkey, and Saudi, where normalization is obviously, either stopped or halted, limited space of political leaders in these countries is limited through the war. How do you manage, either you can share with us how did you do it, what can you actually do, how is cooperation possible, or what's your vision on how to come back to energy security, climate cooperation, topics that are key for the future of Israel and the neighborhood?
Okay, so 3 questions. We only have 5 minutes. We have 5 people. 2 of them are clearly much more, 3 are clearly much more directly engaged at the moment, but I want all of you to be able to speak. So maybe I'll let the 2 people at the end say something before I come to where I think we're going to end up. Would you like to take one of those? Please don't try to answer all 3. Just take one.
Sure. Yeah, well, I would actually just very briefly make the point, because obviously the EU's role is much more marginal in this, but I do believe that it could play 2 roles. One, contribute precisely to that development vision, that the longer-term development vision, including by working with the administration in Washington, as difficult as it might be, but the EU is still the one that is able to set aspirational standards, even if we ourselves don't always meet them, but we can set those standards. And still, when other third countries are looking at the Euro-Atlantic community, they'd rather be like the EU in terms of development rather than the US model. So that's one. And the other thing is, precisely because we are more marginal, we could play an interesting mediator role among the greater powers active in the region.
Thank you. Rainier?
Look, last night in this room, the former Luxembourg Prime Minister Xavier Bettel said that if in the 1950s you had asked the French and the Germans if they want to be friends, they would probably have said no. What he was he's probably right, and what he was alluding to, of course, was that essentially the US at the time told us Europeans, now be friends and make peace. And to your question, this is, to me, I can't quite see this, how the U.S. is going in here as a mediator, sort of in the Camp David approach the gentleman reminded us of a minute ago, or actually with the ambition to try to impose an order. And that, to me, is an open question.
I think it's an open question for most of us right now, exactly what the strategy is coming out of the Trump administration on this question. Abla.
I think I'll skip, leave the remaining minute for the time.
Okay, please.
So first of all, I think that the new administration, they have a fresh approach to solve all problems with new thinking, and we have to be a little bit more patient in order to evaluate it. As the General Petraeus said, strategically, they understand where is the center of the problem. For example, Iran. They really identify who runs the show or the radical show in the Middle East. So it's one, I think, a very important principle that we have to follow. With regard to the not very near future, but follow on, we are optimistic. First of all, during the war, we have experienced that it's the first time that the Abraham Accords were a test. And we found, and that led me to be optimistic about development in the Middle East if we'll be patient and will really touch the right problems. So the Abraham Accords is really encouraging. I think the changes in Lebanon could also encourage us. The Oslo Accord that you have rightfully meant, you said the Camp David. 1979. You mean with Egypt? Yes.
But also ramifications.
Yes. So first of all, all the old peace agreements and the new peace agreement, the Abraham Accords, give us a good base to look into the future. But this time, I think the Middle East will be more shaped by the camp of moderates versus the camp of radicals. And I think the U.S. policy will support and provide the positive incentives to the moderate camp, rather negative incentives to the radicals. And I think that's what is ahead of us. And I think that we should be cautiously optimistic.
Thank you very much. General.
Well, thanks for the last word. First of all, I mean, the lesson of Egypt, Israel have moderate leaders on both sides who are willing to make some compromises with a Henry Kissinger and Richard Nixon in the White House. And unfortunately, we don't have any of that. The story of everything since then has been missed opportunities by both sides, I might add. And we've been in a position for the last, 20 or more years, where every time you look at it, they say, well, the Palestinian leader can't make compromises, but, the Prime Minister, his coalition will fall apart, so we can't. Although, there was an opportunity at Camp David with Clinton. There was an opportunity with Ehud Barak, and an opportunity, especially with Ehud Olmert, that I think is one that Palestinians will look back on with great rue. As to this particular issue we're talking about here, let's always come back to Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister, what do you want to accomplish? Destroy Hamas, I agree. Keep Hamas from governing again, I agree. Get the hostages back. And I would add, and you also, Mr. President, need to provide a better life for the Palestinian people in Gaza without Hamas in them. And with respect to a multinational force doing this, there's no multinational force that can be assembled that is going to go in and conduct a comprehensive civil military counterinsurgency campaign against Hamas. It has to be the Israelis, as much as they don't have the large forces, they don't have a counterinsurgency field manual, they haven't trained for it, they don't want to call up reserves, et cetera. I don't think there's any alternative if you want to come back to the objectives, and that's what you have to keep asking. And I think the objectives are right if you add the fourth one, and the way to go about that then is with the Israelis, as I've said, small bites at a time, work your way down. The minute you've accomplished one, you actually thin out the Israeli forces and move down further. They always control the entry control points because that's the fail-safe, if you will. That's the last big check as you move on down. There's going to be really tough fighting, but if you want to achieve the objectives, again, Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister, whatever, this is how I would lay out that you would do it, and I have not seen any alternative. I've also seen no alternative to the two-state solution. The problem has been that instead of preventing more obstacles to the two-state solution over the intervening years when we excuse the political leadership on both sides, there are more obstacles, and we also haven't supported the development, nor have the Palestinians, the development of the kind of institutions, education system, end pay for slay, and all the other problems that have created issues on that side either. So, and it's gotten much more problematic rather than easier over the years as a result. But Gaza is separate from that if it can be dealt that way, and it could actually be an example of what right is like if it's done to achieve the objectives that I've laid out, and then you promote, again, gradual interim governance, security forces. We should have been training, by the way, select Palestinians in the Jordan International Police Training Center from the very first week of this war, so there's something ready to go in there. In the interim, again, Arab forces will be going again. So, yeah, but I mean, we've lost well over a year as a result of that, obviously. But that's how I'd lay that out.
Thank you. Not an easy discussion to have. I deeply appreciate the strategic. Well, I think for some people it's actually quite a hard conversation. Clearly, you were a tremendous person to begin and end with. Thank you so much, General Petraeus. Thank you very much to each of you. That was a wonderful panel and a tough one. Thanks.
May I request the panelists to please pose for a photograph? And may I request all the participants to please head to Darbar. We'll be starting a plenary session shortly.
This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service.